I hope I'm up to it. Build equity.
I think you'll be fine, but thank you for making it sound like it's harder than it is.
It's the last. Okay, yes, we realize it is that time already. I only have one step. Sign in. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. We need to have a roll call.
Amy Oliver,
Present online.
Dennis Kuhn,
Here.
Craig Barron,
Present.
Robert East,
Here.
Gil Januzzi, Daniel Slater,
Present.
and Alex Zimmerman. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Great. Let's move ahead to item 2 on our agenda, which is approval of minutes and the legal action report from October 1st, 2025 meeting. I believe that was distributed to everybody, so I'd be looking for comments from committee members. Or a motion.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3, which is subcommittee report and organization. And
I can do that if you want.
let's let Amy take over that and go ahead.
Well, since the September meeting, the subcommittee has met twice to go through continuing work on different comments that have been made. And most particularly, I'm going to address what we did in our last subcommittee meeting, which was we started working on considerations that Alex Zimmerman brought up, both as a committee member and in the public comments about, excuse me, my brain will catch up in just a second. Well, mostly he made several comments, but quite specifically about amphitheaters and outdoor performance venues. Those are not addressed in the code at this time. And so we are working on addressing that right now. And we've gone through several different options on how we might do that, adding language and the potential addition of a chapter. We won't actually do any of those things or promote them in to the full committee and in a public meeting until after we've been through all of the comments, but it is something that we're already considering. And that's the primary thing that we've been working on at this time, and also figuring out how that will end up in definitions and whether it will impact other areas of the code. That's it for now.
Okay, fine, thank you. I might add to what Amy was talking about on that issue. It's probably mostly going to be addressed in chapter 6. At least that seems to be the direction we're going, is the place to take care of that. Next agenda item is committee discussion of public comments. And that's a continuation of what we did last time. And since that time, we got the rest of the public comments in, and there's quite a number of them. So we've been wanting to individually address each comment and to acknowledge, you know, acknowledge that the committee is aware of the comments and to determine really what we do next with each of them.
This is in order by,
Yeah, I don't have that one.
they just printed out from Monday. I gave one to Murray.
So I haven't seen this until just now. I know we got through comment number 27, I believe it was in the last meeting, or 26. And,
It was, 25, but we are, because we are waiting on the final report from Fisher Morant Stone, we are skipping over, Katie's comments to number 49 today, and then we were gonna circle back to Fisher Morant Stone for the December meeting.
okay, are you thinking, Amy, that we would still take these in, the original or numbered order? It seems to me that. at
We don't
least-
have to do that just because I know you have the original numbered copy. I'm just letting you know that the ones from Fisher Morant Stone, we were gonna hold on until we got their final report, so that we have all of their data.
I guess, given that really the point of this for us to acknowledge comments, maybe I would like to continue going forward in the original numbering that as they came in. And as we move through that, we may begin to recognize that they fall into common categories, and perhaps we can be more efficient, unless anybody's got a better idea.
Well, I mean, Devin, I think we should go through subcommittee and go through all the ones that we have previously gone off and mark them off the new list.
You got
Since that's in order, which we've already responded to.
Yeah, that's what I need. No, I'm in the meeting. I just need this printed.
Okay, well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and begin with number 49.
Is that Jody Jordan?
That's Jody Jordan. Regarding chapter 3, section 301. I work at Gilbert Ray Campground and I live in the Wonderland subdivision. It's E1C in the lighting code. Thank you for protecting this area for dark skies. We moved outside the city and specifically chose this area due to its proximity to Kip Peak, Tucson Mountain Park, and Saguaro National Park. Please continue to protect our dark skies for astronomy purposes and protect the welfare of our desert wildlife and people. Dark skies are a valuable resource that Tucson has, and tourism, especially in this area, is dependent on the quality of our night skies. Our guests at the campground often comment that they will return to Gilbert Ray Campground year after year so that they can stargaze and enjoy being away from it all. Protecting our night skies and creating experiences for people to enjoy the stars only serves to enhance our economy and well-being of our citizens. Keep up the good work.
Well, I say thank you, Jody Jordan.
And that's a pro-regulation comment. Number 50 from Rear Warren. I really have only one concern, and it has concerned me for some time, years. The Mercedes dealership at Grant and Wilmot is bright enough to see from space at night, to see from space. I have always wondered how they were exempted from dark skies code to abide by, and to which I 100% agree with. I have brought this up with my city council rep, but have never received any reply. So what gives? I'd be willing to offer a comment on that. And I suspect that what gives on that is that it's actually interior lighting coming from the showroom of the dealership. It's got the full windows of it on it. And because the outdoor lighting itself, I think, is fully shielded lighting and appears to be in compliance. So I think what's going on is it's interior lighting, and interior lighting is not regulated by our code. But it is something that we have discussed from time to time that perhaps we do need to address that. And I think there's going to be continued work to consider whether there should be provisions in the outdoor lighting code addressing interior lighting that was specifically installed more to be visible from the outside than to illuminate the inside of the building. I don't know if we have any other committee members with comment.
For it to be permitted, Rob East, they would have had to have provided their dark sky calculations. So I don't think that they got out of any code. I think, as you said, Dennis, it's glow coming out of the showroom. To write a new code section for that, or the outdoor lighting code committee, not the indoor lighting code committee. So, I guess maybe she takes up the council member to see if the energy conservation. That's the only thing that's regulated, and that's the reason to have it. So I think there is a regulation to minimize indoor lighting, it's not the outdoor lighting code.
Yeah, the energy code would govern, the amount and the controls on indoor lighting, and on newer buildings, there are definitely controls that keep inside lighting from running when there's no occupancy in the building.
Definitely a newer building.
But, you know, it's been around for a while. Code really got stricter in year 2018, and I think it's over. I'm going to move on to number 51, Steve Ecker, chapter 3, section 301. Can you turn off the street light at the corner of Saguaro and Morondo and Boswell? It shines into my bedroom window, making it difficult to get any sleep. Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction over how the county operates street lighting, or if it's a utility street light, how the utility does. But I would suggest talking to the county about it, and perhaps they could do something. Comment 52, Shelley Good Burgon. Pima County must adhere to and further restrict upward lighting and lighting at night in general. Our astronomy research at the U of A depends on this. Data centers would clearly not align with our lighting code.
I don't understand why data centers would not align with lighting codes. They're probably would be one of the least lit uses, but
And,
Yeah.
and it's always gonna be full cutoff lighting anyway.
Yeah,
Why would
they
that
would have
be-
to comply with the code just as any other business would. And essentially, they're building big boxes. They do have parking lots around them, and I suppose they'd want to eliminate those, but
no glow coming out like from the city.
and if there was, that would likely be a problem because they don't have windows, so they'd have to be on the outside of the building.
Yeah, very, very rare. This is Amy. Very rarely, most data centers, like you said, Dennis, they don't have windows on them. They have very limited windows, usually, transom windows in some spaces to let in a little bit of light. But also, they don't really light their parking lots. There really aren't a lot of people in them. And especially not overnight, so. There are other issues with them, energy resources, water resources, things like that, but not per the lighting code.
Number 53, Leslie Lillywhite, chapter 3. I value our night sky protections. We must continue sustaining our dark skies. Dark sky, heaven forbid, once this is gone, it is impossible to restore. Another full regulation comment. Comment number 54, Shelley Good Begone, chapter 4, 401. The Mercedes dealership at Grant Wilmot is not adhering to light pollution regulations. We commented on that previously.
And Dennis, it's Craig Byrne. I'll go over and take a look at it and see.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah, we've got 2 people now so far. That'd be great.
Yes, I think you commented on it in this meeting, or when it was, but I think you noted they were using 4,000 Kelvin, or you thought it was a higher Kelvin rating
On which project?
on the Mercedes.
Mercedes.
Yeah, but that would be for the outdoor sales area where the higher Kelvin ratings are allowed by chapter 7.
Yep.
But they would be subject to a curfew. So if those are on at 2:00 in the morning and the dealership is closed for business, that would be in violation. And
Yeah, there too.
I'll bring the beer.
actually, I believe the curfew time is earlier than that. I think it's 9.
Might be 11 or something like that.
Yeah, it's earlier, but nevertheless, there is a curfew on color temperature greater than 3,500 Kelvin in the present code. Our draft is proposing 3,000 Kelvin as the maximum limit, but we're still discussing whether it's appropriate to allow an exemption to the color temperature for outdoor sales. It may still end up being allowed.
Amy has her hand raised in the meeting room.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Amy.
Did I hear Craig say we should have someone go check it out? Cause you're
I-
right.
I will check.
Well, yeah, this is two in here, but this isn't the first time we've heard this. This is like the sixth or seventh time we've heard about it. So if you're willing to go look at it,
Absolutely.
that would be amazing. Thank you.
Comment number 55 from Myra Coyle about chapter 4. I have noted that code enforcement is grossly understaffed to address the rampant violations of current standards. So my first concern is that regardless of the new standards, if they are not enforced, it will serve no purpose. That being said, there needs to be more emphasis on educating all citizens that lighting laws even exist. The rampant increase in ornamental outdoor lighting of homes has increased exponentially within my and surrounding neighborhoods. Year-round strings of colored, what used to be considered winter holiday lighting, adorn homes, spotlights aimed at landscaping, massive security lights of outrageous lumens, people plastering their driveways for the misguided purpose of perpetuating the myth that such lighting scares pack rats. HOA management companies should be held liable for properties in clear violation of current laws. Businesses should be required to meet the same night sky standards, no exceptions.
Yeah. Another pro dark sky.
Yes, and we acknowledge enforcement is difficult, but we're trying to write a code that is adequate for the purpose of it being enforced. Comment 56 and several following, they're all from Michael Gaiman of the Chamber of Southern Arizona. Chapter 4, section 401.1 lumen table. First comment, provide rationale used to support reductions and proposed lumen caps. Then second comment is demonstrate that sites can be adequately and safely lit under the proposed lumens in each area with each source. Third comment, functionally requiring amber and lighting products not readily commercially available and products which represent significant cost increases. Failure to acknowledge potential drawbacks of amber, less efficacious than other correlated color temperatures, higher costs, and market availability. It's a punitive standard for use of soft white. Excessive lumen reductions in all light areas, E1s, E2, and E3. 40,000 total shield lumens in E2 is untenable. It was option 195,000 LPS and 62,000 option 2 in 2012. Inappropriate restricting opportunity in areas not geographically located in proximity to ground-based observatories, E2, not in any defined observatory radii. Failure of the table to make allowances for the additional impacts of the proposed motion sensing 50% dimming of light output per fixture or pole. Occupancy sensors should be incentivized and not mandated. So we've got a bunch of comments here that are relating to the reduction in the lumen caps, the effort to incentivize people to go to warmer light sources by allowing more lumens for the warmer sources than for cooler sources. We've got comment on area E2 perhaps being overly restricted, given that it's not in a defined observatory radius. And I'm not quite understanding about the failure to make allowances for the 50% dimming, but then saying the dimming should be incentivized and not mandated. I guess right now that I believe the committee's opinion is that it's a combination of requiring the sensors and the reduction of lumen caps are necessary to preserve the dark skies. However, we have our consultant that is preparing some real numbers. And when we get those numbers, that will help us evaluate those lumen caps. And until such time, I don't think subcommittee or full committee is going to be doing anything with lumen caps pending getting that receipt from the consultant. Other committee members, anything?
Yeah, I just, that, I raised my hand for a second to say that, I know that Katie and Charles have worked, on that report and that we're getting ready to actually have that meeting with them, so, so we can't make any market comment on this at this time.
Let's move on then to number 57, Michael Diamond, again, the Chamber of Southern Arizona. For chapter 1, section 101.3. Comments, there's 2 comments. Increased text that acknowledges the need for lighting for economic growth and sustainability. And the second comment is reference the need for outdoor lighting code consistency with city and county adopted principles, which are Prosperity Initiative, Plan Tucson, and Pima Prospers. Comment 58, Michael Diamond, Chamber of Southern Arizona, Chapter 1, Sections 102.4, 102.5, and 102.6.
Sorry, wait, before we get too far, I actually wanted to address comment 57 for just a second.
Sure.
There are some additional principles, and you and Craig will probably remember in subcommittee, we looked at all of these. We did look at Prosperity Initiative, Plan Tucson, Pima Prospers, and then also the mayor of Tucson has additional plans and initiatives in place for balancing economy and growth with the needs of the environment. And so we have been using those as well. We started using those about a year ago. If you guys remember, it was that 86-page document that I emailed everybody. So, I just want to make sure that if Michael's listening or someone who works with Michael is listening, we have considered all of these documents as we've been making these modifications.
I'm in the room.
Hi,
Excellent.
great. I'm sorry, since I'm online, you're all about the size of an ant. I can't see you.
The wrong side of the room from the camera.
We feel that way. True.
Since you're in the room, as I read these, if you have anything to add to it, I would say now's the time to make us aware. Number 59, no, I'm sorry, number 58. Chapter 1, so 102.4, 102.5, 102.6. First point, 25% addition, modification, replacement to trigger 100% retro is excessive. Second point, ordinance is counter to and inconsistent with ARS 11.812. Next point, requirement of complete inventory and site planning detail is excessive requirement and costly. Next point, change of use, resumption of use, property deterioration triggering 100% compliance is counter to the priorities of redevelopment, adaptive reuse, and mixed use development. Final point in this set of comments, clarify that the outdoor lighting code applies to state and municipal government-owned properties and buildings equal to the standard applied to privately owned properties and buildings as stipulated in the Arizona State Lighting Code. The one comment I could make on that is that we have tried to address the issue of the complete inventory and planning. And I think that in our draft, we've offered significant relief from that in an exception that's an alternate method that rather, on a large site, rather than inventorying the whole site, each project can identify their own developed area within the big site that is for the area where work is actually being done, and calculate the lighting within that and ignore the rest of the site. And I think that provides really significant relief compared to the present method.
Dennis, can I ask you a question? Is that an individual grading permit or an individual building permit when you say project?
I think,
Is that the-
I think we're thinking building permits because that's when the lighting code tends to be applied as opposed to grading.
To an individual building permit for a single structure?
That's my understanding. I think the committee's on with that.
Thank you.
And I would also say to that point, and there's, I mean, you'll ultimately get to the points about the master planning, because we also submitted comments about having more of a lighting master plan for.
Yeah, and that would be another
Parcels.
way of dealing with that.
Exactly.
Particularly on master plan projects where you're gonna have a single developer that carries it on, and that could be a lot better way of dealing with it.
Right, for multiple parcels, multiple building permits, all of that.
It just gets difficult when it starts out as one development and pieces get sold off and different owners, then you lose all that control. So we need methods that work kind of both ways. Yeah, I'm very disturbed by the idea that federal government and sometimes state government is subject to the same rules, and not sure how we get around that when our advisors from city and county think we're doing the right thing, regulating the way we are.
Yes, this is Dan.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
will say county projects, they have to go through the same outdoor lighting code permitting project, process that you would as an individual developer.
Yeah, so with the county develops, and I think the city of Tucson does the same,
So, yeah.
but you know, school districts don't necessarily have to. State of Arizona doesn't have to. The University of Arizona doesn't have to. Federal government doesn't have to. And that's some of the bad lighting in this town. A lot of the bad lighting is from those other organizations or other governmental organizations.
And you can understand the reaction of the private sector that is investing personal money, taking risk and paying property taxes, that government wants to establish a criteria to enforce it on private property owners and then exempt themselves at whatever level. You know, it's like, if it's a good program, it's a good program for all land uses, not a subset of a land use.
Okay, let me move on to number 59. Michael Diamond, the Chamber of Southern Arizona, Chapter 1, Sections 103.2. Question: in the last 5 years, how many times has this been requested, granted, or denied? And then penalties of $750, add unnecessary process, cost, and delay, simplify procedures. And then increase temporary exemption timeframes to period of need as defined on application and approved by building official. I do not know the answer to question 1. And I really don't know the answer to any of those questions, and we have not addressed that in committee, so it's something we need to look at. Number 60, Michael Guyman again, the Chamber of Southern Arizona, Chapter 1, Section 104.
Sorry to interrupt, just briefly. Moving back, this is Clayton with the city. Sorry. While we have Michael in the room, just curious to make sure that we can adequately respond. Can you clarify what has been requested, granted, or denied? What is specify what has been requested, granted, or denied? What do you mean?
There you go.
Out of, I think it's out of context.
There's a lot of context.
Sitting right there. Each copy. Do you have an extra copy?
That's the temporary exemption. So are people actually requesting for temporary exemptions?
She had an extra. Yeah, all the procedure of granting a temporary exemption. Like, so. People in this section.
No, this is not set up like that. They redid all this. I'll look for the ones in section, chapter 1, section 102, 103.2.
Also, if this is the one, you got the spreadsheet in the printable version I sent out for everybody for the week. The Excel spreadsheet has both versions, plus both printer friendly versions in the Excel spreadsheet. So,
Did you find it, Michael?
No, I'm gonna have to look back.
Well,
that was submitted because it does seem a little out of context.
Well, chapter 1, 103.2, questioning how many times has this been requested, granted, or denied? And that is the fact that you need to get a temporary exemption for certain types of temporary lighting, like for construction purposes and whatever. And I think that's
Like special events.
Special
Yeah.
event.
Gem show.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable question to ask. How many times? I have no idea.
I- One, since I've been building official, for the temporary lighting,
One.
something that somebody applied for it.
I suspect more than one time there's been a contractor set up with portable lights, though lighting.
Yeah,
night-
no,
night work.
absolutely. I'm just saying, I've
So-
processed one request for temporary lighting.
I mean, I think one of the challenges as we deal with heat management and in global warming and those kinds of things, particularly in the construction trades. There was a bill at the legislature last year to allow construction firms to start earlier in the day. The same thing is gonna happen at night under some kind of lighting for construction, because none of us want those construction crews doing what they're doing, whether it's a public project, public procurement project, or private, at 120 degrees when we're sitting there between April and October with that potential of being over 100 degrees.
Mhm.
So I do think that that the temporary lighting permits should be simplified, because as you said, we're dealing with the 2012 ordinance, and that's gonna be something that we're gonna be, going forward.
Understood. Number 60, Michael Guyman again. Chapter 1, section 104.2.3. Add the option for a property owner to submit a master lighting program. I don't know what form that's going to be in, but I'm advocating that. So I think it's probably going to happen. Let me move on.
Sammy, we have talked about that in subcommittee, so I just want Michael to know we are talking about it.
Thanks, Amy.
61, Michael Guyman, chapter 1, section 106.2. Special inspections add process, cost, and delay. Provide a rationale for special inspection requirements, citing the 75% of allowable lumens per table, 401.1 recreation facilities, special uses. Provide hyperlink to list of individuals or firms certified to provide special inspections. And then second point on that, confirm that inspection requirements for temporary certificates of occupancy or certificates of occupancy will not be delayed. Citing a construction loan interest expense. In subcommittee, we've talked about special inspections, and we believe that they're necessary, given the fact that when special inspections occur, that oftentimes, more often than not, projects are not passing initial inspections. Projects don't get built for the approved plans. And because the basic building inspections are not taking care of outdoor lighting, that's why the city and county are asking for special inspections.
What's the typical cost for that? Or a range of cost for a special exception?
I want to say Jeff Matthews charges me about $3.75 a pop. And that's probably 3 or 4 hours checking lights. It's a real gray area. The whole lighting, back to the lighting industry. They may specify a certain light. It goes to the electrical contractor, that goes to somebody like Craig. Sorry, Craig. They switch out the lights. You don't always get what you ask for on the plans. And so I think it is a necessary thing to check. Because there's so much stuff that happens between plan until it gets installed in the field. So I don't think the county or the city is going to check all those things. And we have all sorts of special inspections. We're talking concrete, asphalt, AV. I mean, there's a lot of different special inspections we inherit on projects. And this is probably one of the more important ones.
I think the second point of making sure that it doesn't delay any sort of, C of O or temporary C of O.
It shouldn't, it's not a life safety issue.
Yeah.
And typically, if I have an issue, I can go to Dan or a Clayton and say, hey, this is not life safety. Can we get our TCO? Yes. So as long as you guys don't think it's a life safety, then typically they would provide a TCO.
And this is Dan. TCOs will really work with you to make sure that they're done. CFOs are a little more tricky because if we don't get everything for the CFOs issued, it's really tough to get that.
Let's move on. Item 62, Michael Guyman again, the Chamber of Southern Arizona. Chapter 1, Section 107.4. Misdemeanor penalties of $750 per day for individuals and $10,000 per day for other legal entities, HOAs, sole proprietorships, small businesses, companies, is excessive and outlandish. This should be reviewed and significantly reduced, and citing the 8th Amendment.
Hi, sorry, this is Amy. That's a state law. So, we don't really have that. We've addressed this before, ourselves, over the past couple of years, and we have found that it is in the Arizona revised statutes. So we've not been able to make that modification. It would be overridden if not that these things don't go to court very often. In fact, I don't think the whole time I've been on this committee, I've ever heard of that happening. Or that these types of fines are being imposed anyway. But if it did end up in the court system, the Arizona revised statute would come into play.
You know the ARS statute reference?
I think it's in the code now.
I'm saying which ARS chapter?
Yeah, no, I know. I think it's in the code. I just don't have the code up in front of me. Let me pull it up.
It's,
Let me try to pull it up.
this is Dan. It's ARS 11-808.
Thank you, Dan. You were much faster than me.
808.
Yes.
11-808.
It should have both a city and a county reference, so there should be a 9 and an 11.
I agree.
So if some of the statutes only apply to counties and only apply to cities, and some of those are true in references here, like the 25% trigger for 100% compliance. Given that this is a city county code, I think the city and county should reconcile when it references ARS, if ARS only applies to a city or only applies to an unincorporated county. So if it applies to both, there should be an ARS chapter 9 and an ARS chapter 11 reference.
Okay, I've got that. Item number 63, this is Michael Guyman, Chamber of Southern Arizona again, Chapter 2, Section 202. And there's multiple points here. First one, modified definition of developed area for residential subdivision plats and commercial development site plans that are required or mandated by jurisdiction to enter unimproved areas. Those areas shall be considered part of the developed area. Undeveloped areas incorporated into developed property and subject to areas are visited by people. Second point, modified definition of undeveloped area. For residential subdivision plats and commercial development site plans, undeveloped areas are required, mandated by jurisdictions as improving and bettering the project. These areas are visited by people and shall be used in the calculation for allowable unit. Third point, add definition of master lighting program. Plans for all permanent lighting at a specific business or property, allowing developers to request a variation from the standard outdoor lighting code with specific criteria showing compliance with the intent of the ordinance is met. Next bullet point, add definition of and standard for partially shielded. Partially shielded are beneficial to dark sky preservation. It is factually inaccurate to define partially shielded as the same as fully unshielded. Unshielded lumens should be based on photometry qualifying lumens actually emitted above 90 degrees, not total nameplate lumens, i.e. decorative wall sconce, entry door safety. Final is consider benefit of adding definition for on-site and off-site. Okay, we've got a lot of points here, and I know that many of these have been discussed in our subcommittee work already, and are going to continue to be discussed. Any other comments?
The only comment I want to make going back is ARS 11808 that is referenced in the outdoor lighting code. It currently says infrastructure service and boundaries notice, hearing and adoption. So it has no references to penalty amounts.
I promise you, it's in the Arizona revised statutes. We can't pull it up right now, but I will, like Dennis should keep moving and I will look for the one that says it. We have addressed this several times over the past 3 years.
Yeah, and my guess is when this was written in 2012, that was the correct AR.
Yeah, I think in
It
the
just
draft,
needs to
it
have
needs to be adopted.
I've got a note to go find an update to the correct ARS. Thank you, Priscilla.
Going to go to number 64, Michael Guyman, Chamber of Southern Arizona. Chapter 3, Section 301.1.3. Revised definition of E2, which is an area not geographically relevant to the location of ground-based land observatories. E2 can have a standard that is more appropriate for future economic development. E2 includes land west of downtown Tucson, southlands, south slope areas, and areas in the northwest. Areas in the northwest in proximity to highways and major arterials. The current definition of E2 is lighting area. E2 is an area falling outside of the other lighting areas defined herein. We have already begun discussion on this, and acknowledge these points. I'm not sure we've got agreement with all of them, but, it's gonna be continued to be hashed to see if we can come up with better, definition. The other thing I might mention is that we're looking at some of the interface between the E3, which is city limits of Tucson, and there's little fingers of E2 that's coming in that are only E2 because they haven't been annexed. And I could say annexed yet, but once it gets annexed, it will be E3 again. And we're looking for a way to get those into E3 now. And letting E2 be, try to make it more of a rural area as opposed to like right next to the city, but it just happens to be E2 because it's across the line.
Yeah, I guess my comment to that is that I guess I would ask the question, why, since there are so many, so there's such a high percentage of what you would consider urban in county, unincorporated county areas, why the lines, the jurisdictional lines matter. Right, because light travels regardless of jurisdictional lines, so it shouldn't, in my opinion, be based on whether an area is annexed or not, because we have 35% of individuals in this county living in unincorporated Pima County, and many of those areas you would consider urban, not rural.
Understood.
I think my challenge is since 1996, Rocking K has been 5,000 acres of a master planned mixed-use community with commercial apartments, multifamily, single-family residential, parks, open space, and it is in E2, and it is least proximate to the observatories. So it's a punitive overlay that is inappropriate for the land use approvals that we've been granted.
We were talking about that in subcommittee last time.
And the hundreds of millions of public infrastructure that non-residents of Rocking K are benefiting from a private investment in water, sewer, roads, everything else. So we resent that punitive overlay of E2 on Rocking K unequivocally.
Understood. Next comment, number 65, chapter 3. The more restrictive should not apply to the entire site. Property should comply with the standard for the applicable lighting area. So I'm understanding this comment to mean follow the geography and not expand to the more restricted. Again, we are trying to look at that whole piece. So it's going to be different than it is right now, I think, by the time we finish. Exactly how, I'm not sure.
Right.
Let me move on. Comment 66, Michael Diamond again, the Chamber of Southern Arizona, Chapter 4, Section 401.4.1. This standard for commercial adjacent to residential does not support mixed-use development, which is prioritized by city and county. The requirement of the second point is the requirement of lighting not higher than 10 feet above grade at property line may be problematic and constrictive in some urban site-specific locations. So that's addressing the fact that we have a number of prescriptive rules in the code saying do A, B, and C if you're commercial adjacent to residential. And I know those were put into the code in lieu of some other standard of how to restrict light trespass onto residential property. And this is something, again, that we're looking at in our subcommittee, and we may need another subcommittee to further address some of these issues. But, this is just me talking here, not representing the whole committee. But I think our choice is between prescriptive methods that say you can do these things, and that provides some help on light trespass, or we'd have to come up with a different method, which is prescribe that there can be no more than a certain amount of light that crosses that line from adjacent property into another property. That would essentially mean to implement that, every single lighting permit, you'd have to have an engineered lighting plan with photometry that demonstrates the amount of light. And,
Or a mixed-use project would have to submit a master lighting program plan.
yeah, that could be
Right.
another way
It
of
would
doing
be
it.
if you're gonna have commercial and residential with both Pima County and the city of Tucson are in encouraging and incentivizing, then those projects would have to submit master lighting program
Yeah.
to address that adjacency.
What I'm thinking, where we should probably go, is offer alternatives of how you can do compliance. That is, there could be a prescriptive method that complies, or there could be a method where you have to prove how much light you're spilling, and then maybe this master developed area is another way of demonstrating compliance for the whole property. And if we had those alternatives, then each developer, each project can decide which works best for them to get compliance. But the goal would be to get the same result, which is, we've had general comments from members of the public basically say, keep it dark. And we have more of those than we have comments, people saying Tucson's too dark, make it brighter. So, we're hearing that. And just from experience, you look at vandalism of outdoor lighting on buildings, the bad light that's outside somebody's bedroom window is always the one that gets the rock through it. We have to do something about light trespass. Let me move on to comment 67. Again, that's Michael from the Chamber of Commerce, Chapter 4, 403.1. Some businesses have employees that work between hours of 11 p.m. and sunrise. Please clarify the safety provisions for these employees. That one's easy. That's a curfew section, and it's the curfew that applies to unshielded lighting. So yes, if somebody made a choice to design all their lighting of unshielded light fixtures, you'd have to turn them off at 11 p.m. But you don't have to design the lighting that way. You can put shielded light fixtures in, and that's the only place where curfew is going to really affect lighting after 10 p.m. When you look at the damage to the amount of sky glow you get from unshielded light compared to shielded light, it's a major difference. So we need to try to control the unshielded light. 68, it just says see comment letter. There's a separate letter further on in the comments, so we'll skip over that. Number 69, Michael Guyman, Chamber of Southern Arizona, Chapter 4, Sections 404.1 and 404.2. First point, this adds significant cost per fixture for lighting that is 12 foot above grade in retrofit replacement and new construction. This should be modified to read adjacent grade level. Second is the requirement for motion sensing control, which 50% and no activity has been detected for 50 minutes when combined with the functional requirement for amber and total light reductions and definition of developed area is punitive to property owners and may contradict the public safety goals that the city of Tucson and Pima County are encouraging for the built environment. This is Dennis again. I will offer a counterpoint to the comment on the motion sensors. We can take this requirement out of the code. They're going to be required anyway. They are in the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code. They have to be used on outdoor lighting. because of the energy code. That was recently recommended for adoption by the joint code committee that's reviewing all the other building codes. And so either way, motion sensors are going to be required. Now, the energy code will not go into effect until at least July of 2026, but at that point, it's going to be required anyway.
Which is gonna have a huge impact on affordable housing.
Again, that's for commercial development, not residential. And that's another point that I think we're gonna need to go after what is residential and what is commercial. Because we may not have that line. I don't believe we've got the line in the right place right now. It's, right now residential is only 1 and 2 family and everything else is commercial. And probably that line's gonna have to change.
And I know this is a little bit outside of this context, but yes, that energy code is being proposed. But there could be local amendments that could also make changes to some of those things like you mentioned.
Yeah, there are significant local amendments, and as of right now, there is no amendment to eliminate that requirement. This other committee would have to go into. Just to be on the record, I am a member of the other committee.
And I don't necessarily oppose that. I think the challenge is that if you're going to have that motion sensor lighting requirement, whether it comes through the outdoor lighting code or the adoption of the energy code, then its benefit to maintaining dark skies should be acknowledged and incorporated in the table 401. And I think that's where the disconnect
Yeah,
is.
I actually think it is already. And the reason I say that is when you look at the impact on sky glow from the various types of light sources, the predominant light source, the 3000 Kelvin LED source, puts out somewhere around 8 times more of the short wavelength, the blue light, compared to what was the old predominant source back in 2012, high pressure sodium. So there isn't really this equivalency between 3000 Kelvin LED being a warm source that's benign to dark skies. It's damaging to dark sky. So if you actually restrict the 3000 Kelvin to the extent that it is putting out all that extra blue light, the lumen caps would be 1/8 of what they were in 2012. And what's being proposed is substantially higher than that. So what I'm trying to say, it's a combination of the motion sensors and reduction that helps mitigate the really, really bad light pollution that's coming out of the LED light sources.
Clayton in the chat said the city of Tucson will be considering 1, 2, 3, and 4 family dwellings as residential. I believe that's in the new code.
Yeah, and presently it's not that way in the outdoor lighting code. So we need to reconcile that difference. Comment 70. Michael Guyman again, Chamber. Chapter 5, Section 501.1 and 501.6. First point, please clarify applicability. Because of the need for signs and sign lighting, regulations need to be content neutral for the 2015 U.S. Supreme Court Reed versus Town of Gilbert. Please explain how this section meets the needs of those establishments with 24-hour services for health, safety, and welfare, homeless shelters, urgent care, emergency centers, hospitals, etc. And then the second comment says, when the public sector and private sector engage in identical and comparable activities, the same lighting standards should apply. Committee members? I'll just offer that I think the rules and the curfew rules about the use of outdoor signs say that signs can be illuminated if the business is open. They do have a curfew if the business is closed.
Correct. I agree.
Number 71, Michael Guyman, Chamber of Southern Arizona again. Chapter 7, Section 701.1. Outdoor construction should be added to this definition for public health reasons. Lighting area 2 should be added to the special use area. I don't understand second point. 2. Yeah, I'm not understanding the comment. Sorry.
I have to look back at my letter.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on to number 72. Chapter 7, Section 701.4. After closing of business does not address lighting needs for employees or contractors which need to access and occupy a building to perform work during hours when the business may not be open to public or customers. I can address that right now. The purpose of Chapter 7 is to allow lighting to be installed that is beyond what would be controlled by the lumen cap for the special activities. So things like outdoor sales and outdoor manufacturing may need more light than the lumen cap would allow for those activities. So we're not saying you can't do those activities. You get the exception, which Chapter 7 grants, that you do not have to comply with the lumen cap for those activities. But then you have a curfew. You have to turn it off at a curfew time when the activity ceases. That doesn't say you have to turn all your lights off, just whatever lights you don't turn off, then the lumen cap applies. So then you're like any other business that's normally regulated with outdoor lighting. You can use up to what the lumen cap lets you put in for the lighting to get to the parking lot, for perceived security around the building and other activities. But it's the waiver from the lumen cap that has the curfew. And that's not going to change in the proposals.
Can I just ask a question? Because this came up when I attended a small business commission meeting for Pima County. And the owner of Beyond Red spoke about the outdoor lighting code. And I just want to make sure what you just explained would address his issue. I guess somebody will. I'm dealing with the small business commission, but so what he said his concern was, one of his concerns was the commercial adjacent to residential and the 10-foot height limit, and that was one of his concerns for his business. The other was he didn't understand the definition of open because he had bakers that came in at 2 a.m. in the morning and they were doing what they do before that he may open at 10 or 11. I don't know what time they open in the morning or what time they close in the evening. So he was concerned that the curfew or the shielded versus unshielded or something would be create an unsafe condition for his bakers that were coming in when his business was closed to the public, but open for internal operations.
I don't think that would, and the reason is that we don't have a curfew for general outdoor lighting. We only have a lumen cap. So if you're in area E3, you get a certain number of lumens. And you can run those lumens all night long. Now, when, under the proposed draft, you get your number of lumens, you can design for all those lumens. Now, your outdoor lighting that's at 12 feet and above would have sensors on them so that after, when there's no activity, they would go down to reduce power. But once the sensor senses any activity, they then come back up again. So the fact is, this normal lighting can stay on all night long, but the motion sensor would bring it down and then bring it up again. When we're in chapter 7, we're talking about special lighting. So if the bakery, say it had an outdoor patio that was a display patio where they wanted more light, they could do that. It was an outdoor display and sales area. You could put substantially brighter light, as bright as inside the building for that purpose. That would be subject to the curfew. When you're no longer selling those products outside and you reach your curfew time, you have to turn those lights off. You could still have some light in that area, but then that light would be subject to the lumen cap, just like any other business's outdoor lighting. So I don't think in the example you gave that they would be under a particular hardship that any other business wouldn't feel they had, and that people are operating under right now. I haven't heard it. That's creating an undue hardship for most businesses.
Amy has her hand raised in the chat.
I do have my hand raised. So we've, actually, Priscilla, I want to point out, we heard this from you several months ago and we did discuss it, and we're happy to clarify it in the code. But again, like Dennis said, we've not heard that it's causing anybody undue hardship. It's maybe just a misunderstanding
That may,
how the code applies.
I'm trying to represent, and it would really be better for somebody to reach out to him directly. He could better explain his issues than I certainly could.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I think the best thing for him to do is to come to an open public meeting or to submit comments, so that we have them, so that we can address them and keep a record of them.
Okay, we're through comment 72. We'll move on to the next, which is comment 73. And so now we're getting comments from Emilio Falco from Dark Sky, Southern Arizona. And there's 3 points in the first comment. General changes. Throughout the document, there are updates to certain technical terms, e.g. replacing instances of the depreciated cutoff terminology for light shielding with fully shielded and similar. It would also now recognize the Illuminating Engineering Society, IES, bug system, use 0 rating as equivalent to fully shielded. That's in new subsection 104.2.4. We appreciate the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee's attention to modernizing the language of the ordinance as well as its technical contents, and for phasing out certain terms that are no longer used in the lighting engineering community. And there's a subparagraph to that. We understand that the IES is considering updating its shielding definitions in such a way as to limit emission of lighting the first 10 degrees down from horizontal, the so-called glare zone. In accordance with the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting, Sky International now believes it is appropriate and beneficial to minimize the percentage of luminary emissions within the 80 to 90 degrees FBH and DVH zones of the ANSI IES TM 15-20 bug rating system. And then the second footnote is U0 allows a trivial amount of incidental uplight which reflects real-world measurement conditions in the lab. IES ANSI IES LM 75-19, section 9.32 allows a test lab to zero out up to 0.25% of total upward luminous flux in measurements as if one, it eliminates stray light exceeding 1%, and two, it can correct for any remaining stray light exceeding 0.1%. Making no such allowance for this would prevent realistic testing of luminaires. That is, nothing could pass the test. The point of view zero is to ensure that the luminaire emits no light above the horizontal as a matter of its design. Okay, we acknowledge this comment. Comment number 74, Emilio Falco, Dark Sky, Southern Arizona, Chapter 1, Section 101. Section 101, Title, Scope, and Purpose adds language referencing the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting devised and promoted by Dark Sky International and the IES. We strongly support this change. That said, there are concerns about practical meaning of the 5 principles, e.g., when certain elements of light are needed. Without further elaboration, these statements are subject to considerable differences of interpretation and may lead to unintended results. Amy, I know we addressed that some in subcommittee.
We
Yeah.
did. Since there was duplication, we've now taken that language back out and simply clarified it earlier in the paragraph. So when the next draft comes out, in December, when the next draft comes out for the next open public comment period in December, then well, ostensibly December, given we need to get through all the public comments this time. But so once that new draft comes out, that'll show in there.
Okay, let's move on to 75. Emilio Falco, Dark Sky, Southern Arizona, Chapter 1, Section 102. Section 102 applicability now has some language that prevents triggering new lighting inventories plans under some circumstances. Provided that the new provision were properly enforced, we find no reason to oppose this change. The revised text also adds destruction or deterioration of property as a new compliance trigger in line with best practice. It's acknowledged. Thank you. Next comment is number
36.
76. Emilio Falco, Dark Sky, Southern Arizona, Chapter 2, Section 202. There's multiple comments on the definitions. So you try to go through them quickly. Section 202 definitions. It adds a number of new terms with definitions that are broadly acceptable to us, with a few notable exceptions stated below. CCT, correlated color temperature. The stated definition is acceptable. However, the ranges of CCT values referred to as lower CCTs, medium CCTs, etc., are all subjective and should be made precise. We don't understand the functional distinction between deteriorated property and destroyed property, although we assume the difference must be in the legal language of ARS Title 33 versus the HUD definition. Developed area. It is arguable as to whether landscaped areas that may be illuminated at night are likely to be occupied or regularly visited by people. We urge caution in terms of potentially allowing considerable lighting for landscaping, which on some large properties can cover many acres. It conflicts with the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting cited in subsection 101.3, in particular, the first principle, use light only if needed. Next is house side shielding. The stated definition, an attachment for an outdoor light fixture, especially street lights, parking lot lights, or yard lights that reduces light trespass, does not quite capture the practical function of these shields. We suggest a slight modification. An attachment for an outdoor light fixture, especially street lights, parking lot lights, or yard lights that reduces light trespass by increasing the cutoff angle of the luminaire. And finally, light fixture. The statement here is see also luminaire, and the terms light fixture and luminaire may be used interchangeably in this document. We note that luminaire has a technically precise definition and is the preferred term in the art of lighting design and engineering fields. We urge the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee to consider replacing all instances of light fixture with luminaire consistently throughout the draft OLC update and discontinue imprecise references to fixtures. Any comments?
In the chat, Eloise Gore says, how does removing the 5 principles resolve the ambiguity of the word needed? If this sentence remains, all light should have a clear purpose, be directed only where it is needed, and no brighter than necessary.
That's a great question. So there's been other changes made. This is Amy again. There's been other changes made. So when the new draft comes out, you'll see those changes made. So it's not that the words are staying the same. It's that we're working on clarification and then expansion so that it includes all of the principles in the correct manner without doing duplication.
Thank you.
I'm going to continue, and I guess I need to try to move this a little faster. We've got a lot to cover and running out of time. Emilio Falco again, and for the next several comments, all the way through number 90.
I think Dennis, technically number 77 is 77 and 78 are actually a continuation of 76. Like you
Yeah.
ran out of typing room.
Yeah, I think so. They're just, I mean, these are all definition comments. I don't know if I need to read them all now, but all the committee members are reading all of these comments. And we are discussing these issues as we get into the subcommittee that's, actually updating the draft.
If you don't mind, for me, it had looked like, because I have read them all, and for those 3, 76, 77, 78, a lot of them are asking for clarification. So the way the definitions are right now, there's something confusing in them or something's not quite clear. And so I think we can say we're applying that rule to all of them. There's, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 definitions that they've noted. And so we'll just look at all of them and make sure we're clarifying them.
Thank you. Then I think we can move on to number 79. Again, Emilio Falco, Dark Sky Southern Arizona, Chapter 3, 301.3. 301.3, Map of Lighting Areas. While the map shown is helpful, the appearance of this map and the link to its source will change during the life cycle of the current revision. Instead of hardwiring a link to the map, consider the text to the effect of refer to current Pima County resources. Yeah, I agree. I will, and we've talked about that already, so that'll.
Me too. We
Well,
had this problem in the last 5 years when the GIS moved. And so I agree as well. We just need to change it to the language.
Yeah, I find in my work that Pima Maps is the best place to get the lighting areas. And because you can track every single parcel on that and get it exactly. Number 80. Emilio Falco, again, Dark Sky Southern Arizona, Chapter 4, 401.2. 401.2, total outdoor light output. The statement's total amount of light measured in lumens from all outdoor light sources. Total outdoor light output shall be the sum of the lumen rating of all installed outdoor lighting fixtures as defined by lamp manufacturers, are a definition, not a legal provision. They should be merged into a single statement and moved into section 202. I think we'll defer that to the subcommittee to decide what to do with it. Next is 81, Emilio Falco again. Chapter 4, 401.2.1. 401.2.1, determining compliance. The statement Fixtures installed under canopies and overhangs that extend no less than 24 inches beyond the mounting surface of the fixture shall be counted as 0 lumens when installed no greater than 24 inches below the canopy, overhang, or view. It's very difficult to parse in absence of a visual reference. It needs to be made clear. We're going to defer that to subcommittee, and I think there was a drawing prepared. Alec prepared a drawing already, and we may incorporate that. I'm not sure, but that might be the way to deal with that.
Yes, that's what he did. There's some small modifications that need to be made to it, but yes.
Number 82, Emilio Falco, Dark Sky Arizona, chapter 4, 401.4. 401.4 light trespass. A new light trespass statement replaces the existing statement that was exceedingly difficult to parse and therefore not often enforced correctly. But we conclude the new statement would also be difficult to enforce because of its subjectivity. All lights shall not provide unwanted or intrusive artificial light that extends beyond the property line of the site where the light source is installed, resulting in illumination of another property without permission. We find the phrasing unwanted or intrusive subjective and expect that it will be difficult to enforce. An objective standard is necessary for a determination of light trespass. For example, if an enforcement officer measures an illuminance on the ground above a fixed threshold set forth in the OLC from a light source from an adjacent property, there is light trespass. Furthermore, it does not account for wall wash or other light scattered incidental from the surfaces. This is unworkable to us. I'll offer a comment. I made talking to Priscilla the suggestion that on the earlier matters that the issue of light trespass has been addressed by some prescriptive methods. Perhaps we need other methods where there could be measurements or such. We added this paragraph, which probably doesn't help any of those. And so I think we in subcommittee need to hash that out some more, but I would be advocating that we have a prescriptive method, do A, B, and C, you will be compliant, or an option for measure the lumens if will not exceed a certain amount, et cetera. We need paths for compliance, but perhaps not just one. So we'll say subcommittee. Number 83, Emilio Falco, chapter 4, 401.4.1. Mounting height retains phrasing from the 2012 OLC that is also very difficult to parse in the absence of visual reference. We encourage the OLC to add a figure here illustrating the meaning of the provision of this subsection. We acknowledge the comment. Number 84, Dark Sky, 401.4.4, flood and spot lamps. The example shown illustrating the 30-degree limit can still cause both light trespass and directward upward emission, depending on where inside the shield the lamp is situated. In many cases, subsection 401.4 would effectively prohibit angled lamps anyway.
We'll have to look at that in subcommittee again. Fisher, Morantz, and Stone made a comment on the way the drawing was done. My bad. Like where I had put the vertical line, and that might be the issue here that they're referring to because of where the vertical is. But I don't think we're going to be seeing uplighting from that. That's all. I think they tested it, right? So we can address that with Charles.
Okay. Number 85, Emilio Falco again. This is section 401.5. Unshielded lighting keeps the existing 3,000 lumen shielding threshold in the 2012 OLC. That figure is equivalent to 200 watts of incandescent light. It is a considerable quantity of unshielded light, even as we recognize that the OLC aims to limit the total amount of unshielded light that can be installed on a given land parcel. To the extent we know that shielding represents the most important intervention in luminaire design or operation in terms of reducing sky glow, this is an important point. In comparison, the international dark sky community shielding threshold is 1,000 lumens per luminaire. That figure is stated in terms of initial lumens, which accounts for depreciated light output in real world conditions. The OLC does not make this distinction. Dark Sky International 2023 program guidelines is where the 1,000 lumens came from. Again, this is be a subcommittee issue. I am not an advocate for reducing that number because it actually helps us with some issues like flag illumination and festoon lighting to make practices that would be illegal but are going to happen anyway, keeps them legal. And given that it's unshielded lighting and it's under the lumen cap anyway, yeah, you can reduce the threshold per luminaire, but you're just going to put the light in anyway with 3 luminaires instead of 1. So I don't see where it solves a whole lot. That's just my personal opinion, but I'm going to be arguing for that. We do the draft work. 86, Emilio Falco again, section 401.6, optional compliance method for single-family residential compliance. Makes allowances for a single residential lot of any size. This is a departure from the 2012 OLC, which made allowances according to the gross acreage of residential parcels. For larger parcels with multiple outbuildings, the figures cited here are comparatively small allowances. I think our subcommittee needs to look at that again. Number 87, Emilio Falco, dark sky. 401.8, festoon lighting makes it clear that string lighting counts toward site limits. We support this addition. It's acknowledged. For 88, Emilio Falco again, section 401.1, I'm sorry, table 401.1, commercial lighting. The new table largely follows our 2022 suggestions of the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee that mostly amber lighting allowances be increased for non-white, i.e. amber light sources in accordance with the vision science. For options that include white sources, the allowances are mostly decreased. We therefore support the resulting changes to the 2012 table. Okay, we acknowledge that. Number 89, Emilio Falco, section or table 401.2, residential light is new to the outdoor lighting code, having been broken off from table 401.1 in the 2012 version. The new table keeps the existing 2012 residential allowances irrespective of light source. A new section, residential option 2 amber sources, gives greater allowances than option 1. It scales the option 1 allowances up by a uniform factor of 1.5 in all lighting areas, and again, consistent with our 2022 suggestion. We acknowledge the comment. Comment 90. 402.1, rated color temperature. Sets the allowable correlated color temperature threshold for general lighting applications to 3000 K down from 3500 K. We support this change. Given that stepping down further to CCT standards such as 2700 K does not result in considerable reduction in shortwave light emissions, and considering the relative dearth of very low CCT lighting products available on the commercial market, we feel that 3000 K is a reasonable specification. We further note that the new lumen allowances in tables 401.1 and 401.2 incentivize the use of non-white light sources like amber LED. Also, there is no good way of enforcing the provision in exception number 2, which is found in the 2012 OLC, because it puts the onus on the city or county to prove that no suitable lamps at the specified CCT exist. Acknowledge the comment. Number 91, Emilio Falco. 403.6, illumination of the flag of the United States of America is new to the outdoor lighting code. The provisions are good. Top-down illumination only, and the possibility that the lighting will count toward unshielded lumens if it's not fully shielded. We support this provision. We acknowledge the comment, but I think we're not all there on this requirement. Item number 92, section 404.1, motion sensing controls, adds a provision not found in the 2012 code requiring that motion sensing controls should be provided for building and pole mounted light fixtures which illuminate parking lots, driveways, and pedestrian areas and other open outdoor areas. Under shielding, the most important factor that minimizes light pollution is the use of adaptive controls such as motion sensing switches that limit the duration that lighting is energized. We therefore support this provision. Okay, we acknowledge that comment. 93, Emilio Falco. This is section 404.2. Motion sensing controls operation. Says further that equipment shall automatically dim fixtures to 50% or less of the full rated light output when triggered. A 50-minute reset time is allowed, but we feel that 5 minutes is sufficient given continued activity in the area around motion sensor control luminaires would cause additional triggers. That light is available continuously for as long as an area is in use, and it switches it off more quickly once activity ceases. I want to comment back on this one to say that we've tried to align the requirement to commercially available products and also to what's in the energy code, and I don't think we want to go any further than that. So which probably would not reduce the timing. We can address it in subcommittee again. Number 94, chapter 5, section 501.3. This is Emilio Falco again. 501.3.1, lumen cap exempts outdoor internally illuminated signs from counting toward the site lumen limits in chapter 4. However, these signs are then otherwise unregulated in terms of light output. We see no reason why they should be treated differently from digital signs displays as in subsection 501.5, particularly in regard to illuminance limits. Do you have any committee member comment? We acknowledge the comment. Number 95, this is Emilio Falco again. Chapter 5, section 501.5, LED, LCD, plasma screen, and similar signs. The allowed luminances of these signs remains set at 200 nits, that's candela per square meter. Both Dark Sky International and the IES in its RP 39-19 document recommend maximum luminance levels ranging from 0 nits for lighting zone 0 to 160 nits for lighting zone 4. The highest lighting zone in Tucson is lighting zone 3, for which the recommended luminance limit is 80 nits. The Outdoor Lighting Code Committee should follow this guidance as recognized best practice. We favor an approach that adheres to IES guidance using following mapping of nit limits to the OLC lighting areas. E3 80 nits, E3A 40 nits, E2 40 nits, E1C 20 nits, E1B 20 nits, and E1A 0 nits. Illumination signage is prohibited. Well, we're already there on E1A. The others, we've beat this thing to death in subcommittee, and I don't know that we're gonna be changing, but we're acknowledging the comment. We'll probably address it again in subcommittee. Number 96, Emilio Falco again. Section 501.6, sign illumination curfew. The 2012 outlighting code provides that illuminated signs shall be turned off at the curfew times listed in table 501.5 or when the business activities cease. We suggest that the language be clarified by stating that illuminated signs must be extinguished no later than the curfew times listed in table 501.5 or upon cessation of business operations, whichever occurs first. Staying on past that time makes the message an advertisement that can be regulated in a content neutral manner with a uniform curfew time coupled to the business's operating hours. Okay, we acknowledge the comment. Number 97, Emilio Falco again. 601.2, lighting for athletic fields. Instead of referring to IES Class 1, now says requiring full color rendition, but it doesn't say why or how. So in response, we asked the OLCC which kinds of sporting events require full color rendition to which this provision would apply, and what is the purpose of any required full color rendition. Full color rendition to satisfy the requirements for television broadcasting is insufficient justification. Okay, we acknowledge that comment. Number 98, which is Emilio Falco, Dark Sky, Southern Arizona, Chapter 6. 601.3.1, event schedule. Adds lighting may remain on up to 1 hour after the conclusion of play in order to allow for any required field maintenance that must take place at end of play. Being consistent with Dark Sky International guidance, we support this sentence. We acknowledge the comment. And that takes us to comment number 98. And we're running against time, I think, on our schedule. We got through all of the Emilio Falco comments. I'm wondering if we should move on to our code, the agenda, and so that we can get it over with. So I think I'm gonna stop on agenda item number 4, and let's move ahead to item 5, which is open discussion with the public. So at this time, I would ask for any of our guests or people online, if you have any comments, we can make those and acknowledge them. You have any?
Got a hand up.
Oh, it's the online.
I'm sorry.
Put the online.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eloise.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I always really appreciate this. It's wonderful to be able to participate this way. So I just want to say that up front. I'm genuinely pleased to be able to participate on behalf of the homeowners association where I live. And as you'll find when you get to the 214s, whenever you get up there, we also submitted a lot of comments, some of which follow what you've gone through today. And this, you can totally disregard this, but it might be easier or quicker if you looked at the comments, you know, in the subject area or by the code number instead of by the person that submitted it whenever they did. I appreciate someone, Clayton answered my question about that and said that this was to help people who came and wanted to be able to speak because they were expecting to be able to have their comment reached in time. But it's just interesting that maybe looking at the same topic from different points of view, the same code section from different points of view, or the same point of view might, but probably that is how you do it in your subcommittee, I would imagine. I heard you say at one point that you're thinking about an additional subcommittee to deal with light trespass. Dennis, did you say that?
Well,
No, I'm so sorry. I'll answer that. It's a working group for engineering specific issues. And so it's not really about light trespass. It's about the engineering components that would impact that. So things like the overhangs or canopies or angles of lights and things like that, things that only engineers can really do respectably.
Yeah, because we had, like this other gentleman, we had a lot of comments on trying to be clear on light trespass and, you know, how it means and what it works and how it's regulated. So that was why I was just curious. But I guess the process is, so it's now November and you say you'll have something in December. Will there be any other meeting that's open to the public where you'll talk through some more of the comments, you know, maybe?
So, yes, and I'm so sorry, that was a mistake on my part because I had hoped we'd get through more comments today. So we will not have another draft in December because we do need to get through and acknowledge all of the public comments on the current draft before we go back and write the new draft. So that means we'll have a big task ahead of us to attempt to get through all of them at the December meeting. So that then the subcommittee can start writing the new draft.
So the rules that you follow require that you read each comment out loud and say, we acknowledge it. And so that has to be done with all, however many, 300 or so comments. Is that how that works?
I'll let Clayton, if he's still out there, give specifics on this, but we have committed this time around to acknowledging and reading aloud all comments so that every member of the public who has submitted a comment knows that we have received it and considered their comments. In past iterations of public comments, when we have not done this, there have been stakeholders who did not know if we received or considered their comments. And so it's very important that we make sure that we are inclusive and that everyone knows that their comments have been read and considered.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The light rating.
yeah, there's
And this
so,
is,
It is light reading. Thank you, Craig.
go ahead.
this is Clayton. I can respond to Amy's inquiry. There's nothing that specifies that we must read all of these comments verbatim. So there might be time to be saved by summarizing them. That is, a possibility, but the intent is definitely to make sure that everyone's comments have been heard and everyone has an opportunity to speak on their behalf.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Clayton. So we can maybe, Dennis, you and I can do some summarizing before the next meeting. Of course, I'll be legal again for the next meeting, so I will do summaries for the remaining comments.
Sure thing.
Thank you again.
Do we have any other comments? Either online or in? Guess there's nobody else on. Go ahead, Priscilla.
Thank you. I would just like to read something into the record. I don't know if this is being recorded or not, but just, I think that the challenge, and we're here to find a win-win solution and a balanced solution that protects our dark skies and the observatories and deals with everything that's also happening on the ground. And I want to thank everybody that is on the committee that has volunteered their time, because it is I have a sweatshirt that says, "Stop me before I volunteer again." I think everyone on the committee needs one of those, because it's a pretty thankless thing. But one of the things that I think that we're all wrestling with has to do with how much lighting and ambient nighttime lighting and environmental design is needed for public safety here. I've read a lot on it, and in particular, on the Dark Sky International website, it says there is no clear scientific evidence that increased lighting deters crime. It may make us feel safer, but it has not been shown to make us safer. And I would like those of you that are involved with the Dark Sky International community, there's a huge body of scientific and empirical data that does very highly documented studies between lighting and crime from very reputable and objective sources. So I'm not sure that that statement on the Dark Sky International website is entirely accurate. Stanford, Cornell, the Brookings Institute, the New York Crime Lab, and Pinkerton are some of the examples. I think we all do know that in 2025, Tucson is one of the top cities in the nation for crime. We're 4 times higher than the national average for deaths of pedestrians and cyclists, and that does not include injuries. So I would like from some of the objective sources that I cited to read you just a couple of paragraphs that have to do with the relationship of lighting to crime and its impact on safety. The other thing that's very interesting, which we have never talked about, is some of this empirical scientific data has been done by states that do have daylight savings time and have statistical data about the reduction of crime when a daylight hour is added into the evening, which Arizona does not have, which we really have not talked about here, which just in my research, I thought was an interesting point that we hadn't really addressed here. So if you would bear with me, this is from Pinkerton. A place-based intervention core to urban crime prevention through environmental design is ample lighting. It can encourage pro-social use after dark, increasing informal guardianship, natural surveillance, and further disincentivizing potential offenders. A Philadelphia streetlight crime study beginning in August 2023 observed that upgrading about 1/3 of the city's streetlights had an observable and statistical effect on crime citywide. The impact on nighttime outdoor crimes was pronounced, with an overall crime decline of 15%, a 21% drop in gun crimes, a 20% drop in violent crimes, and a 16% drop in property crimes. Then, when researchers partnered with New York City police and municipal officials to place lighting, this is the crime lab of New York City, to place lighting towers randomly in some of the city's highest crime areas, they found serious nighttime crimes plunged 60% in those areas over the next 6 months. Because lighting may simply push criminals to operate a few blocks away where no extra lighting exists, researchers also estimated the reduction over the entire community. That led to a more conservative estimate, but still striking estimate, at least a 36% decline in serious crimes. About 11% of the crimes being considered happen outdoors in New York. Thus a 36% drop in crimes translates to an overall 4% decline rate in the crimes, in particularly in New York City's public housing. The Brookings Institute, we find, this is a daylight savings, We find that shifting daylight from the morning to the early evening has pretty hefty returns for public safety. When daylight savings begins in the spring, robbery rates for the entire day fall by an average of 7%, with a much larger 27% drop during the evening hour that gains some extra sunlight. Why might this shift matter? The timing of sunset is pretty close to the time many of us leave work and walk to our cars or homes in the dark, makes us easier target for street criminals. Hang on a minute. And it's easy to imagine why light might have a deterrent on crime. Offenders know that they're more likely to be recognized and caught. I'm getting a pop-up that's messing me up. Dark makes us easier target for I'll just go on to the next one. The last one, which I thought was particularly interesting, it says, a regression analysis shows that robbery rates decrease an average of 51% during the hour of sunset following a shift to daylight savings time in the spring. We also find large drops in cases of reported murder, 48%, and rape, 56%. Effects are largest during the hour of sunset prior to daylight savings time. As an additional robustness check, we exploit the variation of the impact of daylight savings time by hour in crime to repeat our analysis in a triple differential framework and show results are largely consistent. Using the social cost of crime, we estimate, and this is this particular city, and I can send all of this to you guys, resulted in a $558 million annual cost in avoided social costs per year, suggesting investment in lighting should have high returns on reduction in crime. Those kinds of things. So I think one of the things that we're trying to strike a balance in is that making sure that public safety is adequately addressed when we update the outdoor lighting code. And I would like to disabuse of the discussion that there's no relationship between outdoor lighting, environmental lighting design, or ambient lighting on the incidence of crime, because there is a massive tome of statistical data that there is a direct relationship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Do we have any other comments? Hearing none, let's move ahead to our next item, which is future agenda items. And Amy, do you have any things? One thing I'm thinking is we may need a report from the consultant.
Right, that'll be, that will happen on the December, at the December meeting, excuse me. So subcommittee will hear from them in a couple of weeks, it looks like. And then we'll be ready to report on that and have Fisher Morant Stone present at the December meeting. That's the goal. That's the goal. I always want to make sure that I put the caveat in there in case something goes awry for some reason. If we, you know, for example, if we somehow don't make quorum in December because the flu hits literally everyone else, then the December meeting would not happen. But so the goal is to have that happen. And then the other goal will be to get through all of the rest of the public comments so that we can then start working on draft.
I would think that we would make the report be ahead of the discussion of public comments.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We'll let them go first, like
Yeah.
very first in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying the only two goals for that day are to let Charles present and then to get through all of the rest of the content.
Okay. So we'll keep 1, 2, 3, and then add between 3 and 4 the consultant report, and then continue it with the rest of the items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's our last item of business, so we need to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
We have a second from Daniel for adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Like your favorite big plus.
You getting paid?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
At least that's what the.
Well, there's more. I have more of the 200.